Hey guys, it's Malthor here once again, and the new Path of Exile League/expansion has officially been announced as of today, and it's coming in 3 weeks, and it is the Delve League. Now this one involves quite a lot of new things, including primarily the Delve mechanic, which will be just another dungeon crawler within a dungeon crawler, where you explore lots of shit, kill lots of monsters, and it adds what is possibly one of the only real things lacking in Path of Exile right now, an infinitely scaling dungeon that really gets to put your actual OP characters to the test, and that's probably the only thing that Diablo 3 has over the game currently, greater rifts. And if it's done correctly and feels good and is smooth to play and really enjoyable, then it's going to give us a real option for our actual end game choices rather than just mapping, killing Uber Elder and then getting kind of bored. You will quite potentially be able to push characters to new limits, min-max like you've never min-maxed before, and personally it means that you could actually chase mirror items because there's going to be possibly a purpose to actually acquiring those through the infinitely scaling dungeon, getting into harder and harder shit. Now in this video I'm just going to go over the announcement, give a few opinions, go over the new mechanics and items and all of that. Mostly just a bit of opinion thrown out there. If you really want more info about the mechanic and the league and all of that, I do suggest checking out Ziggy D's video because he has made a beauty. It's a pretty damn good video, and it's far better than things I could ever make, and he's got plenty of information at his disposal to let you know what this league's going to be all about. But I'm just going to do my best to go over some of this new stuff and see what the mechanic's all about with you guys, and show you just a few opinions on the new items, the new skill revamps, because there is going to be a couple of skill revamps, a few new skills as well, and quite a lot of new pretty shit. So let's get straight into it. There it is, the Delve League. We've got 21 days, 12 hours, just a bit over 3 weeks to go. In Path of Exile Delve, you will delve into the Azerite Mine's infinite depths to extract treasure and discover its subterranean secrets. Our latest expansion features an infinite dungeon and socketable currency items, as well as a bunch of new unique items, skill gems, balance changes, graphics engine improvements, and more. It is a blue-themed league, I suppose, and like I said, Ziggy's video goes over plenty of this stuff, so I do recommend you check it out, including the graphics engine improvements, which looks really nice. Just overall going to be better game experience for the shadow, lighting. Some of the stuff he shows off there is actually pretty damn fancy, and hopefully it doesn't impact your FPS if you run a potato PC too much, though we have heard that in the past, and mostly to do with like burning grounds and that, and it's been a bit rough. So we'll see how we go, but it is an option that you can tick and untick as you please. You have the Azerite Mine. So left untouched for over 250 years, the Azerite Mine has been consumed by a malevolent darkness that cast out the Eternal Empire. Nico, an adventurer, has harnessed the power of voltaxic sulfite to create a machine called the Crawler that can pierce the darkness. Delve into the mine, but don't leave the Crawler's light for long or you'll be crushed by the darkness. So you have this little machine, it's going to go along the rails. Basically an escort quest, which sounds pretty skeptical if you know the only escort quest currently in the game, the beacon thing in like Act 6. Feels trash, feels terrible, you hate it. This thing has potential to be similar, but from what we've seen and heard so far, it does speed up if you go in front of it. It's a bit slower if you go behind it, so you know you can slow it down. If you want to run ahead faster, it looks like it moves pretty fast, and in the end maps, the harder type of mine challenges, I think it should be pretty well on pace for what it needs to do. It does also pick up loot as it goes along and then drops it at the end in a big loot pile like an incursion, so it's pretty convenient there. And you run over and pick up all the Azerite yourself, just run over it and it actually gets picked up automatically. So that's the first real sort of instance of instant loot that Path of Exile has ever had, and I don't know, from what I've seen in the videos and the explanation from Chris, I'm holding out hope that it's not just terrible escort quests that really slows you down, and it does go at an appropriate pace that does make it feel good, because that's probably going to hinge entirely on this, whether or not it's going to be a good sort of mechanic, if it's fast enough, if it feels clunky, and if there's enough stuff to kill as you go along. You then explore the darkness, and it says the Azerite Mine is full of treasures for those brave enough to risk the darkness for short periods of time. Use flares to venture further away from the Crawler's path, and dynamite to destroy unstable walls which conceal even greater rewards. You will be throwing flares into the darkness, and that lights it up for periods of time. And if you don't have that sort of flare, if you're in the darkness itself, it does do some serious damage to you. And this looks like a pretty rough league for hardcore, I'd say. So, player beware there. And there is going to be plenty of, stuff like, let's say, strongbox level stuff where you get div cards, where you can get certain specific loot just at the end of various little tunnels and corners, as well as what looks like just lots of different actual old league mechanics, like, you can chase it into a breach, a harbinger room, all that sort of shit. Then I have Azerite upgrades. Any Azerite you find in the mine can be traded to Nico at his base camp. In return, he offers to upgrade the crawler and can sell you flares, dynamite, and crafting materials to aid your exploration. So all the blue shit that you pick up will be then turn-inable at this guy, and you can upgrade the crawler itself to do various things. We should actually just have a look at this right there. You can upgrade the crawler itself to do various things and better things. You can have darkness resistant, light radius in general, your dynamite to be more effective to blast through certain regions, and your flares to be more effective. That's something we'll explore as we go, I imagine, but looks like you can customize a bit what you value in your progress. And as I mentioned, you then have a deep civilizations, where it says deep in the Azerite mine you discover many different biomes. As you delve deeper, you may encounter lost cities from Rayclass' dark history. Each environment has its own monsters, bosses, encounters, and rewards, so there'll be plenty of different stuff, different ways to go, and sort of environments to play around in. You then have the new sort of crafting mechanic throughout this league, which is socketable currency items. The ancient civilizations created special crafting items that can be socketed with fossils to modify their behavior. Now, essentially, this looks like a slightly different essence system. So you can have jagged fossil, more physical mods, no chaos mods. A glyphic fossil has a corrupt essence mod, so that'll be one of the 4 corrupted essences. You chuck that into, let's say, this, and you'll get a new corrupted essence, or your item will reroll with a corrupted essence mod, as well as more physical mods, and it's just more targeted crafting that looks like it could be a bit clunky, but there is quite a lot of funky shit to do with this. A powerful chaotic resonator means you can socket 3 different things in there, and it looks like it can really help you steer your crafting towards the exact sort of item that you want. So this one will have a Var mod, more lightning mods, and then some minion and aura mods, and you can have something like this. A helm that gives nearby enemies minus 15 to lightning resist. That's a pretty chunky mod. 15% chance to gain an additional Val Soul on kill. It just really depends on how rare some of this stuff is going to be, and how frequently you can see it and use it. But like I said, I think it's a pretty similar crafting system to Essence at this point, and Essence was fairly good for the league for crafting. You then have the actual map itself, the Infinite Depths. The Azerite Mine is Path of Exile's first infinite dungeon. The deeper you delve, the harder the game gets. In Delve, you'll find encounters that are much harder than endgame maps. Your progress is only limited by the power of your character build. The depth ladder tracks who has delved the deepest into the mine. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of different ways this can go in my mind. It can be really good, it can be pretty damn bad. If, for example, the system itself is incredible, it works really well, and it's really fun to go through the depths, it's sort of rewarding to go deeper and deeper, or it's just for personal challenge and it is still really fun, that's one good thing, and that's a really good start. But if we still have vastly imbalanced builds, let's just say arc traps, elemental hit on the busted conversion scale, certain blade vortexes probably, and RFs, shit like that. If that still exists, it's going to be pretty annoying to have to compete with that sort of stuff and ignore it in favor of your own funner, more quirkier, shitter builds, let's just say, to try and progress through the infinite depths. Because something like arc traps will destroy this shit, and that's in its current state. If it doesn't get somewhat brought in line, it's going to be, yeah, I don't know, kind of questionable, and really just highlight the power difference between some of these builds and the level that it can do infinite depths. Let's say in the Diablo 3 Greater Rift system, clearing a 110 Greater Rift is pretty damn hard, and really shows that your character is quite up there in terms of power. And if you want to then play with a different skill that's just a bit funner or some shit, chances are you can't, and you'll be limited to, let's say, Greater Rift 80, because that's all you can do with that skill. It feels pretty damn bad. And if it means that you can't progress anywhere near as much with the worst skills, with the worst builds, because there's some that are just so far above the rest of the builds, that's, I think, going to be pretty polarizing and fairly annoying in terms of diversity for the game, because by all means, some builds can be the best, but some builds right now are just way too good, I think. And if that's left untouched, the infinite depths or dungeon system could shine a light on what is some pretty vast imbalances in the game at the moment. Anyway, that's just speculation. It's neither here nor there. Hopefully the system's really good, and hopefully there's a few little tweaks in skills and builds coming for this league. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm remaining on the fence about that one. We then have new and revamped skills. So we've got a bunch of new and revamped skills, 3 of which have been shown here. And we have ourselves a smite, which is going to be, as you saw throughout the trailer, a big lightning attack that has a few bubbles on the ground, does a bunch of lightning damage, can be area, can be just pure melee, and then it gives a buff of an aura, so basically an additional wrath type aura, grants 1 to 7 added lightning damage. This one actually looked pretty damn good, and I think should be really nice to level with right from level 1. I'm pretty excited for that one, and it's good to have another skill for unarmed, because as it says, sword, axe, mace, staff, or unarmed. I think this one looks like it'll be pretty handy. You then have Toxic Rain, which looks kind of like a beefed up caustic arrow sort of skill at the moment. Deals half your fizz as chaos, bunch of extra chaos, just damage over time. You drop pods that then do some damage over time and slow things as well. Fire 4 additional arrows, so it's a bit less than what Rain of Arrows would do. And to me, it does look like it could be pretty good for damage with a trickster or an assassin using, let's say, a Death's Opus bow, scaling a lot of crit, and then poison and damage over time and shit. Though from the video that I saw in, or the clips that we saw in Ziggy's thing, it looked a bit slow because you have to throw your arrows in the air, wait for them to land, and then you'll probably be waiting for your damage over time as well. Not too sure what you're going to be doing with that, because poison meta is a bit slow in the ramp game at the moment, and this one could just compound several different forms of slowness. So that might be a bit questionable. And then Dominating Blow itself got a bit of a revamp. You can now summon shit when you hit a unique monster. You summon rare, magic, normal. I don't know, you guys read that. I don't mess around with Dominating Blow. It has always looked really clunky to me. Then there's 7 new div cards, 18 new uniques, and they've given us a taste of just a few of them. We have ourselves the Grey Spire Judgment Staff. This thing looks kinda nuts. It has no sockets, so that's a pretty big downside. It then has 29 attack speed, which means you have a very nice leap slamming for even a caster, 4 to all max resistances, and then 297 global damage. Now that means you can scale all of your elemental damage with, let's say, Abyssal Jewels, auras, LE damage jewels. You can make a pretty chunky Inquisitor, for example. Means you could probably make a very nice Blade Vortex character. You could scale Righteous Fire quite heavily with something like this. That's an interesting item, and it's definitely one you can build around, I think, so that's one to keep an eye on. You then have Cerberus Limb, which is, for level 47, has really nice stats, a bunch of spell damage, cast speed, some spell leech if you have 30% chance to block in your shield, and then a bunch of other armor or shield-based mods, which looks like a pretty handy item, especially for level 47. You've got a map that does some things. Found items have a 10% chance to drop corrupted in area. Unique bosses augmented by player choices. Just another unique map, which should be a little bit of fun, a bit of currency. Monster level 80 in this one. Primordial Chain. Now, I don't mess around with golem stuff too much. Roughly never, but this one does look pretty good. Reduced golem size, 3 additional golems. They deal 40% less damage, have less life. They are turbo golems because they have 83% increased movement speed. And this one does seem like it should be pretty nice for golem builds in general, though I have no idea, to be honest. And then boon of the first ones, 6 out of 6 bestiary item. So yes, you can now get the bestiary items that once were gone, and some of them are pretty damn cool. So it's good that they're making a comeback, and that does bring us to the Time-Worn Relic. Similar to the way the Legacy mechanic worked, in your travels across Rayclust, you may very rarely discover a Time-Worn Reliquary key. This key will open a portal to the Time-Worn Reliquary, which contains one of 150 unique relics from past Path of Exile leagues. So these aren't legacy items like the legacy key was. You can't get, 1000 life combs chests, for example. This will be just old league items. So you have your Rickwold's quills, your bestiary items, your abyssal items, and I don't even remember what this thing is. But yeah. That will be some pretty good stuff. You can get bestiary items. They will be rarer, Chris Wilson says, than the legacy ones. And the legacy ones were pretty rare. So you probably won't see too many of them, and they're going to cost a lot. Because instead of having a good chance to drop a garbage item, it now is equally weighted of the 150 that you can get any of the 150 at an equal chance. So 1 in 150 chance for a headhunter every single time. Sounds like a pretty good gamble, but it's going to be very rare to see, and probably most of the time you're still going to get garbage. However, very cool mechanic, and something to look forward to actually drop as a chase item. And then lastly, you have the supporter packs, and I'll go over them in just a sec for you. So here are the supporter packs. It's just 4 different ones, a lower tier and then a higher tier. Of both the Stalker, Shadow Stalker, Forge, and Dread Forge packs. Now, usually the $30 pack doesn't have too much value in it. The $60 pack has a little bit more value. As far as I can see so far, the actual $30 Stalker pack is probably some of the best value for microtransaction I've seen from any of these packs. You do get some pretty damn cool looking wings. It's, very debatable. A lot of people wouldn't like them, but I think they are a lot of good value in a microtransaction. And the weapon effect. So for $30 with the points, this seems like a very stable buy for just a small amount of money. The $30 sort of supporter pack. The Shadow Stalker then gives you the same thing, but also the chest, or rather the entire character outfit. I'm not a huge fan of this one, but I think it is a respectable choice to make. It's still a good micro armor. I personally have enough that I doubt I will ever use something like this. However, the wings and the weapon were unique enough that I did go for it anyway. The actual $30 Forge supporter pack over here is probably also equally as good value for a $30 as I've ever seen, because this weapon effect, as I'll show you in a second, is extremely good, and the pet is rather huge too, and pretty nice if you're into the pet side of things. The $60 pack then gives you the entire outfit, which, for me, not really my favorite type of outfit. I like slightly smaller ones, a bit more minimal. These chests and shoulders and shit are very chunky and don't sit too comfortably on most characters, and I'll let you see that right now. So I'll give you a few solid examples of the micros on various characters and all that, and I will start off with the Forge weapon effect. So prior to this, one of my favorite micros has always been the Subjugator weapon effect. That is from a extremely expensive supporter pack. It's like $240 or something, and it coats the item in sort of ash and fire, and I think it looks really nice on quite a lot of different weapons, and for the most part it has been one of my favorites. Forge, however, for $30 does something very similar, and looks pretty similar in effect, but it also leaves a real nice fiery trail whenever you move around, and overall it's probably just a better microtransaction, and it's only on the $30 end for this sort of weapon effect. So we then look at it on this character here. Primarily, I have always been using Colossus swords with my Subjugator, which turns it into a 1000-degree hot knife meme, and it's been one of my favorite combos. And like I said, Forge definitely gives it a run for its money. It still looks very similar in sort of effect, but it gives it a much more fiery look to that whenever you run around and move. And if you want to see it with Cyclone real quick, it does leave a lasting trail and effect as well there. So overall, has a lot of value for a weapon effect and microtransaction, and I'd highly recommend picking that one up if you're into this sort of look. And the actual armor itself, like I said, a bit too chunky. For me, it resembles the Dominator body armor, which is really big, has some jutting chest thing out front, but that's roughly what it looks like. It can look good, I think, on some characters. On a Templar, it's pretty nice, and it does have its own sort of effects where it lights up your face a bit and gives you a more how do we show this? It gives you a slightly glowier look to your face, as seen on the Templar. Templar traditionally does not wear things very well because he doesn't have shoulders. However, this chest, he does actually have shoulders for a change, and he looks pretty good in it. So he's got good shoulders, he's got the nice burning shit that lights up his face a bit, does have real demonic eyes if you have the dark red eyes. Glowing red, that is. And I think overall, he kind of wears it well. But like I said, you can see that it is pretty chunky, and I'm not a big fan of that personally. And then I will show you also the lion thingo. Where is it? Forge. There. Forge lion pet. He's pretty damn good value for a, you know, big stupid pet if you're into that sort of thing. Let me get rid of my big stupid wings to show you that. I'm not too into the pets themselves, especially not the really big ones, but if you are, hell, there's some good value for you. Now we'll get into the Shadow Stalker stuff. Let's see, wings over here, Stalker wings. They definitely can work well with a lot of sets, and they are pretty translucent, pretty ball trippy. As you can see, there's just constant colors and I don't know how you call that kind of effect. Let's just call it acid effect. I think it can look good on many different setups, and I'll give you an example as well, but quickly we'll show you the weapon micro as well, the Stalker weapon effect. Also pretty nice on certain things. Can't see too much of it there. That's actually, damn it. Well, anyway, I guess I may as well talk about this while I'm here. This is a Volconus and a Orgaia Scepter. These are both items that come from I don't know, various bosses in the end game, I think, the elder bosses, and they have rotating effects every 4 seconds that do this to your character. Don't think I've ever really shown you guys that. It's pretty useless. It's just fun to have in town because you can only do them while wearing these items, and they're both trash items, so unfortunately you can't skin transfer them on. But yeah, I was trying to give a show off of the micros here. Can't really do too much in that category, huh? Let's say there. Oh, hey, look at that. Anyway, it's pretty cool micro. But if we just set our character up to, let's say, Stygian, actually ends up looking really cool altogether. So there's your Stygian character, and we get some horns happening and some full Stygian action. So that's almost the full Stygian. That definitely goes well together with the set of the wings. Same with some celestial action, some celestial character effect if you really want to incorporate that, some celestial character body armor. It actually does have its place in the game, I think, these wings, even though they look a bit outlandish and a bit weird to start with. So sorry if this portion of the video is pretty boring for the people that hate micros, but I do feel that if you're going to spend some money, it's definitely worth having a look at certain combos on other characters and from other people if you can find it. And there's not too much of that information out there, so I figured I'd share just a bit of that for you guys. So if you want my opinion, I think both the $30 supporter packs are really good value, depending on what you'd rather there. Otherwise, I reckon probably leave it at that. If you're really going to go a slightly higher tier, then I'd say probably the Shadow Stalker is going to overall look better for you and do more for your characters. So in any case, guys, that is the entire Delve announcement as seen from my perspective. I think it looks pretty good. I'm just going to reserve judgment till we know a lot more about the Infinite Dungeon system and what's going to happen in the patch notes. But this one looks like another pretty damn good league and expansion coming from PoE, which I never expect. I never expect really anything. I just want a new league. I just want a kind of reset and a bit of a change to skills and all that. And they keep giving us more and more, so I'm pretty happy with that, and I think it should be good. Like I said, check out Ziggy's video, definitely worth the time. For now, guys, hope you enjoyed this analysis. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.